That's my top focus on this week's edition of the Political Stock Exchange.
Farmer Flashpoint 2.0 flares up. Should centre bring MSP law? Are farmers' demands justified? Will Farm Stir 2.0 impact 2024 polls? The biggest sentiment tracker. Political Stock Exchange. Top focus on Newstrack.
So what's the mood amongst farmers, farm labourers and the general population on the questions being posed by the protesting farmers in Punjab? And what would really sharp agricultural economists and experts on Indian agriculture make of these demands, and what's the way forward? To talk about this, I'm joined in this special edition of the Political Stock Exchange by the sharpest possible collection of minds on Indian agriculture. I want to welcome first Professor Ashok Gulati, Distinguished Professor in Agriculture at the Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations, or ICRIER. With us also on this broadcast is Professor Ramesh Chand, member of the Niti Aayog and a top expert on agriculture. We have R.S. Paroda, who's been former Director General of the ICAR. He's been chairperson of the Haryana Farmers Commission. We have Harish Damodaran, Rural Affairs and Agriculture Editor at the Indian Express. We have Devendra Sharma, leading food and trade policy analyst, author of GATT and India, the Politics of Agriculture. Last but not least, I have Yashwant Deshmukh, cephalogist, founder, director of Sea Voter. They're the polling agency that has compiled these PSE tracker numbers. So I want to start by taking you through the responses from the 2,700 people who were sampled for this poll. And let's then get into what the experts think and get a sense of what farmers, farm laborers and the general population is thinking. So question number one on your screen right now. What's the reason for this protest by the farmers? 54% of land-owning farmers say these are genuine grievances. 49% of laborers say that these are genuine grievances. Only 44% of the other population says these are genuine grievances. Naturally, those who own land feeling most strongly that these are genuine grievances. Those who are far from agriculture not feeling as strongly. Provocation by the opposition. Only 19% of land-owning farmers think this is a provocation by the opposition. 36% of others, non-farmers, say this is a provocation by the opposition. Is this just to do with government attitude? 19% of land-owning farmers are saying this is the attitude of the government. 14% of others. Obviously, as you'll see in all the responses, I want to come to the second question. Are you aware of the demands of the farmers? The more closely associated you are with farming, the more strongly you feel. The further away you are, you don't care as much, really. And that's quite obvious as well. 71% of land-owning farmers say that they are aware of the demands of the farmers. This is not just in Punjab. This is in Hindi heartland states and across the population, so not just amongst Punjab farmers. 65% of landless labourers who were surveyed say they are aware of the demands of the farmers. 68% of others. Even in the general population, there seems to be high awareness about the demands being made by the farmers. Are the demands of the farmers justified? Interestingly, 8 out of 10 farm owners say the demands are justified, not just in Punjab, in the other heartland states as well. 70% of landless labourers say the demands are justified. 61% of others, and that's interesting as well, that 6 out of 10 non-farmers also think the demands of the farmers are justified. Let's come to the next question. Should the government make minimum support price a legal right? 83% of land-owning farmers say yes, it should be a legal right. 77% of landless labourers say it should be a legal right. 64% of the others as well think it should be a legal right. Let's come to the next question. Inconvenience caused by farmers, could it turn public opinion against them? 34% of land-owning farmers fear that because of the inconvenience to the public, general people could turn against the farmers. 43% of the others feel that that could happen. So obviously, those who are non-farmers feeling that this inconvenience is a big irritation. Let's come to the next question. Who has been more sympathetic in handling farmer issues? 28% say the UPA was more sympathetic. 21% say it's the NDA. This is amongst landowning farmers. Amongst landless laborers, 28% say it was the UPA, 19% say it's the NDA. Amongst the others, interestingly, more people think the UPA was less friendly. 29% are saying it's the NDA which was more friendly. So 29% saying NDA was more friendly on the issue of farmers, more sympathetic, whereas landowning farmers feel that the UPA was more sympathetic. So on this, I want to go across now to our guests. I want to start by asking Professor Gulati first. Professor Ashok Gulati, not just amongst those directly associated with farming, but even amongst members of other communities, there seems to be a high level of support for the demands of the farmers. People may not understand the nuance like you've been explaining on our channel, not understand the ramifications on the fiscal health of the economy, but broadly they seem to have, from what I can gather from the data, a lot of sympathy towards the demands being made by the Indian farmers. What do you make of the responses I've shown so far?
As sympathy is concerned, that's very natural. Not only with the farmers and laborers, but all the people have sympathy. We have spent our whole life for farming, right? So as far as sympathy, emotions are concerned, and they haven't got a very good deal, whether it was the Modi government or the Manmohan government, the rate of agriculture growth has been 3.5% for 20 years. Same exactly between the two governments, okay? Now, how far it can go? At a state level, some states can do much better, but others are doing much worse. Punjab is not a great example today anymore. It was during the Green Revolution days. They are stuck at a very different level of farming, and therefore they are looking and knocking the doors for higher and higher income. So that's very natural, and I can understand this. But what is the implication of implementing and making it legal? I don't think a general public can understand. And that is where rationality needs to come besides compassion and sympathy and emotions. You know, if rationality is not there and you decide this, to my understanding, it's a simple question. If the production is 100 and the demand is only 70, and if nobody is allowed to buy at below that minimum support price, which itself will be 25 to 30% higher, then where will that production go? The strong, bigger farmers can go to the court and ask everything government should procure. And Bihar farmers and the smallholders of Eastern India will never knock those doors. So they'll be worst hit, in fact. And that is what is happening even in the current MSP system. Where is the procurement in Bihar and Assam and West Bengal and Eastern UP? So they are not getting a deal which the farmers of Punjab and Haryana are getting a deal. They are at least 15 to 20% below what the Punjab and Haryana.
Devendra Sharma, I want you to respond to these very important comments made by Professor Ashok Gulati, who in his wisdom and experience argues that if the demand of the farmers was accepted, this would actually be counterproductive for poorer farmers, because if you're setting the MSP higher than the market rate, nobody will come forward. Right now, at whatever rate, the rate crashes, but simple economics dictates that whatever rate it may be, most of the produce gets picked up at the mandi. If you keep rates artificially high, the produce will not get touched, and the other farmers who currently make some money will make no money at all. Net, the Indian farmer will be worse off. He's made those comments. Those comments have been viraling across social the last couple of days. You have an alternate point of view. Explain that to our viewers. Why do you think farmers will be better off if a minimum support price is made legally mandatory? Devendra Sharma.
Well, first of all, I'm very happy the questionnaire that you showed to all of us and the response from, as you said, from not only from Punjab, from the heartland and from the rest of the country, I think is overwhelming in favor of MSP being legalized. Let me make it very clear that Indian farmer is at the bottom of the pyramid, and we need to understand the reason for that is that the farmer has been left by and large to the market forces. Market forces have failed everywhere in the world world to provide farmers with a higher income. Even now, when Europe's witnessed protest by farmers, we have seen the French farmers, when they met the President Macron recently or 2 days back, they have also put up a note to the President saying what the farmers need is a assured price for their produce, and in fact they are suggesting it should be, everyone should be banned from purchasing below that price, and I think that is what Indian farmers are also asking. If you look at America agriculture is also in distress, European agriculture is in distress, Indian farmers are in distress, even Philippine farmers are in distress. The point is it runs across the world and farmers are suffering because of markets. If markets were so wonderful, I don't understand why the OECD countries should be providing more than $260 billion as subsidy support every year. And having said that, I think it is very clear that in India, the average income of a farming family, according to the Economic Survey 2016, was 20,000 rupees in 17 states of India, which means half the country. The farmers were living under or living in.
No, but so far, Devendra Sharma, I've heard from you a rhetorical response. No, here my question, sir. Professor Ashok Gulati has given you a very specific scenario of what may happen if a minimum support price is legally mandated. I want you to use the wealth of knowledge and experience. You have to try and counter that on facts, not on rhetoric. He's saying you set the minimum support price artificially high.
Sorry.
And you don't allow, and people who don't want to pay that price will not pay, and therefore a large part of the produce will go unpurchased. Nobody will be willing to come forward to buy it. Farmers will therefore be worse off rather than better off. That is his specific example. Try and counter that. Devendra Sharma.
Rahul, I am aware of what the question is, and I also see the point that you are making. What I said was to first give a kind of impression for the global agriculture, and I think we need to understand it is not rhetoric. It is something that people need to understand. B, let me be very clear. Why farmers should not be getting an MSP, a legal MSP? I think a lot of people are saying that, and we know how the government is projecting or how the media is getting those notes which are unsigned every day, with tossing various figures that this will be the burden on the country and so on and so forth. I think the best way to pull farmers out of agriculture crisis is to make MSP a legal mechanism. Farmers everywhere in the country should get that price. Now, your question, somebody will buy, somebody will not. I think this can all be sorted out. It is not a difficult proposition for the country. But what we need primarily is to see that, nobody is, or let's say the country, nobody is trading below that price. That is what the farmers are demanding.
So, but that goes against the basic principles of economics. You cannot dictate a minimum price in a free market. Let's assume you set the price at 100. A certain amount of the produce will get picked up by the traders. The rest they will not touch. So that part of the produce will then go unpicked up from the farm fields and will lie, and the farmer will get no money. That's the economic argument. You can't artificially set a price higher than what the market is willing to pay for it. That's economics 101.
I'm saying economics 101 is the problem here. We haven't got out of economics 101. And why I'm saying this is because we need to understand if free markets have failed everywhere in the world, please tell me how will they do justice to Indian farmers? Is a question
this
that
is not free markets. You've set the price artificially high. Sir, Professor Ashok Gulati is taking your argument. He's setting the price artificially high. He's telling you what will happen later. A lot of the produce will not get picked up. It will just lie. It will rot in the fields.
Rahul, please let me explain. Why are you rushing through? If I'm saying that when you said free market time, that is what I'm saying. Free markets have failed everywhere in the world. Listen to me. And then I'm trying to say that, if you make it obligatory for everyone to see that, no trading takes below that price, I don't think there is a question coming up that, there will be too much at one time and there will be food to rot and so on and so forth. I think let's be very clear. Even today, food is being thrown on the streets. We know that with all these markets operating, food is being thrown on the streets. We need a kind of a mechanism where, farmers do not lose out. What is wrong in that? And why can't the country take care of the losses that the farmers are going to suffer? I fail to see that. And then if you're arguing that, oh, it will suffer, the farmers will go down and nobody will be able to buy, and that once you make it obligatory for everybody to buy at that price, I think.
Okay,
we
so
have
I see
no
some
option
germ
left.
of an
And
argument.
let
It's
me
not a
tell
very
you, in
strong
America
argument,
also
but
there
I'll
are
put that question to Ashok Gulati.
Let me.
One second. I understand a part of your argument because we've seen this happen with milk, we've seen this happen with tomatoes, we've seen it happen with commodities which are outside the MSP list as well, where sometimes if there's too much production or if the market is not giving the right rate, the farmers, the dairy farmers, etc., spill the milk on the road. So it's not as if it happens only with MSP products, it happens otherwise. He says make it mandatory. Free markets in any case are problematic for farmers. At least you've set a floor that it cannot be purchased at lower than this. This will net, he thinks, help farmers. He says you're providing the exception to the rule. Let Ashok Gulati counter that. Ashok ji.
Very simple. All these MSP commodities, 23, I said on this channel, constitute only 28% of the agri produce. Milk, which is the biggest agri commodity, which is equal to wheat, rice, sugarcane, plus all pulses put together. Why we should not have an MSP for that and say that below 100 rupees nobody can buy, and then you see the consequences of it. It has huge implications, not only for the distortions it will put in the agriculture economy and to the farmers, especially the smallholders, who will not be able to go and knock the doors of the government. Even the existing MSP, as I said, they are not getting. Then the whole economy will get into a turbulence and increasing food inflation and all those consequences on the fisc and all that. So I think we have to be pretty rational. If we can fix the existing system, Eastern India can get even the existing MSP, we will be doing a great justice to those farmers and agricultural laborers. For 59 years, we have not been able to do that since the inception of Agriculture Prices Commission in 1965. So I think what we are talking is maybe a desire or dream, but operationalizing that and ensuring that everybody gets that minimum price, which is 30% higher than the current one, to me, it seems almost impossible.
Devendra Sharma, respond to this. What is special about the farmers of Punjab? Why should they be given special treatment? What about those in Bihar, Assam, West Bengal who get paid much lesser? They don't benefit from MSP in the way that farmers in Punjab and Haryana do. And there are 23 commodities where MSP is already set. What about all the production that happens in non-MSP commodities? They don't, like for example, take milk or poultry or fish. They don't get this kind of advantage, and yet those farmers are actually growing. In those industries, the rate of growth is much more than it is in commodities where you have an MSP. Like rice and paddy, like rice and wheat.
Right.
Well, Rahul, this is what I was going to speak when you cut me short. Let me tell you one thing, that when we talk of free markets, and let's take the example of Bihar, when in 2006 we shut down the APMC and so on in Bihar, we were trying to say that this is the harbinger of a new revolution, market-driven agriculture. We know that even today, a lot of produce comes from Bihar and Eastern UP to sell in Punjab and Haryana. Why? Because what they are getting by free markets in Bihar is about 30% or 40% less than what Punjab is paying, or the MSP that Punjab is delivering. So we need to understand that if the Bihar farmers were getting MSP at that rate at which Punjab farmers are getting, we would have seen a kind of a rate of growth in Bihar which would have been unprecedented for a state like Bihar, that we call it as a hub for labor force and so on and so forth. The point I'm trying to make is we must understand that giving a higher income to farmers is the way forward, and I think it will not be a curse on the society or on the economy.
But Devendra ji, you're not answering the question. The question was that look at the rate of growth of non-MSP commodities. Take poultry, take milk. There, because of the free market, the rate of growth is much higher than in commodities where you have an MSP like rice or like wheat. And therefore, if left to itself, how is poultry growing so fast? How is fisheries growing so fast? How is milk growing so fast? It's growing because of the fact that these are more lucrative, and we need to move farmers away from growing rice in Punjab because the water tables are receding. So this artificially setting MSPs is actually disastrous. It's disastrous for the environment. It's disastrous for the growth of those farmers because they're not growing either. Farmers who are outside MSP are actually growing better and faster. That's what the data says.
No, it doesn't. You have a school of thought which is free market. I can't help it. You need to understand today the Vice Chancellor of Punjab Agriculture University has in an interview said that farmers need an assured income or an assured MSP for crop diversification. He's saying that. And we need to understand, we can't go on repeating these kinds of, statements being thrown at us that, oh, the world is going to collapse or India is going to collapse. No, on the contrary, Indian agriculture will grow. Now, you talk about, milk and pulses and or fruits and so on. All these things, yes, we need to bring up a kind of a system there also that the farmers get assured prices. We have seen the government brought out a scheme called TOP. Then it turned into grain. It hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. We know why it is not working because we leave it to markets. I think what we need is an assured price for the farmers is what I'm saying. We need to understand this rather than, coming up with the fear psychosis that some people are creating. I don't think the country is going to face an economic crisis. I think the economic strength will in fact increase. We are going to see a boom in economic growth when we provide the farmers with a higher economics or higher income. That is what the country needs at this particular juncture. And it can be done not only for cereals or for other agriculture produce, but also for commodities like milk or for milk already has a better system of procurement. But looking at the fruits and vegetables, we need to have a kind of a system that ensures that the income of those farmers goes up. They don't have to throw it on the streets. That is one thing which I think we need to understand, and bringing MSP
Ashok Gulati,
or providing MSP
respond to this argument.
The only way that it can pull it out.
That agriculture is the one sector where you've got production risks and you've got market risks, and therefore you cannot compare agriculture with any other industry. You can't leave it to the dynamics of the free market. Farmers require some income support and therefore they require special treatment. So what may be okay for industry or for commerce or some other kind, those principles simply, philosophically and as a society, Devendra Sharma argues, cannot apply to farmers. It would be the wrong thing to do. And therefore, he's making the argument that if the milk business is working so well, then why do we so often have images of milk being poured on the streets by farmers because they don't think they're getting the right price for it? Ashok Gulati.
Yes, two things we have to distinguish. Farmers need an assured income. That's what my friend Devendra Sharma said. Now, there are two ways to get income going and somewhat stable income so that the risk of volatility is reduced. On the production front, you have to increase productivity with sustainability, and for that you have to invest in agriculture, R&D and irrigation and whatnot. But the discussion today is on the prices. So how much prices you can give? If the market, yes, market is volatile, it's not perfect, but will the government start procuring everything if there is a huge surplus? Will the government start procuring, bhindi and tomato and there are more than 100 commodities? What is so special about these 23 commodities? And Punjab farmers, with all the due respect, actually don't face any risk on the price front because they dump all the paddy and wheat to the government. In fact, the procurement of paddy in Punjab in many years is more than the production of paddy in Punjab. And as Devendra Sharma said, it's all coming from... So if you have to give justice to a larger, community of farmers, you need to put, some risk mitigating measures in eastern UP, Bihar and others. Now, if they start procuring from there, government will be ending up with 100 million tons of rice procurement, and then you give them free. Look at the financial implications of that. Even just this wheat and rice, two commodities, 212,000 crores is the food subsidy. Now, you want to sell everything free, and then you want to procure, and this is only two commodities in 5-6 states. If you open up for 23 commodities and why for only 23, you go for 100, then you see the consequences on the fisc.
Devendra Sharma, I know that we've got other guests waiting, but this is a fascinating conversation. I'm seeing two very sharply polarized views, so I want you to respond to it. Again, what's special about the farmers of Punjab? Why should they get this kind of treatment? Some of the guests who've been coming and are leading this farmer agitation are actually very big farmland owners. They, in fact, suffer the least risk because their prices are virtually guaranteed. It's the small landless labourer, the small farmer with small land pockets. They're the ones who are actually vulnerable, not those leading these farm protests who actually have a pretty cushy life. They come riding on big, fancy, relatively new tractors. They've got these big music systems blaring on their tractors. I mean, these are not the ones who are really poorly off. Devendra Sharma, they're the ones leading the agitation and claiming that hum garib kisan hai. They may be earning more than some of us on this panel.
Well, I think it is very interesting when I see farmers being questioned because they are eating pizza. Somebody says they are wearing safari suits, and then somebody says that they are coming in safari cars, and so on and so forth. I think these kinds of innovations would be thrown at farmers at any protest or any such meetings and so on. Having said that, I think what is more important is to see that when you say that the farmers in this part, what is so special in Punjab? I think Punjab was an area which the government at one time picked up for increasing the agriculture production. At that time, when the India was living under ship-to-mouth existence, it was Punjab which bailed India out. We know what kind of policy initiatives were taken at that time to boost the production. It was what the government did, and the farmers followed. And what has been done by Punjab farmers is remarkable. They have created history. Let's honor that. Let's respect that.
No, but
now,
that's in the past.
Today, if the
Punjab agriculture now faces serious crisis. In any market, you can't rest on past laurels. Water tables are plummeting, the land is no longer as fertile as it used to be, and Punjab is not growing in the way that other states are. Punjab farming is in crisis at this moment. That's the reality. You need to move on with the times, and what you are growing, the crops
Rahul,
need to be more diversified. Otherwise, it will be disastrous for the farmers of Punjab, for the economy of Punjab, and that's a very big problem.
I said you in the very beginning, you said what is so special about Punjab. So I was telling you what is so special about Punjab. Now you say that is past. Now let us look at the present. At the present also, we have a wheat and paddy cropping pattern. We know that. We know how it is damaging to ecology, how it's damaging to environment, and so on. But then the point here is that the government of India has been pushing that. Even when Punjab says that we want to diversify, give us funds to diversify from paddy, there would be a letter from the center of India saying, no, forget there is a crisis. You must go on increasing paddy. This has been happening in Punjab, and we have seen that. News reports say that. Now, second part is that what all is the crisis today is the creation of the government's policy earlier. They were pushing that kind of a model. They wanted intensive agriculture to go. Farm soils and water, depletion is all because of that. They knew it at every stage. Why we are also saying that farmers be given assured income, but also move on to safer or sustainable agriculture. Cropping patterns. That is what the people
Let
are
Ashok
saying.
Gulati respond to that. That if Punjab farming is in crisis, it's government policies that have brought the farmers and the sector to a position of crisis, where it is government policies that have fueled this vicious cycle out of which now the sector, the state and the farmers can't emerge. It's the government which is responsible, according to Devendra Sharma. Let Professor Gulati counter that.
Let me be very clear. My all salutation to the Punjab farmers who gave us food security in 60s and 70s. The wise man of Punjab, Professor S.S. Joel, in 80s wrote a report saying that they have done a great job. It is time to move on to a high value and more sustainable system. Today, the paddy production in Punjab, 1 hectare, you create 5 tons of greenhouse gas emissions, carbon equivalents. And water table, as you rightly pointed out, is going down. Last 20 years in Sangrur district of the Chief Minister, water table has gone down by 25 meters. This is the level at which the environmental disaster is taking place. Now, we all want farmers' income to go up, and I'm with Devendra Sharma on a good assured income augmentation of the farmers. My only submission is we are not in a ship-to-mouth situation, producing more of wheat and paddy. We are in a surplus situation. We are exporting 40% of the global paddy trade, rice trade. So the laws and the policies of 1960s, if we are applying now, we are actually axing our own feet. So we need to be careful. With times we have to change. Punjab should be an export basket for high value crops to the Gulf. You need a special package. So let the Prime Minister and the Chief Minister of Punjab have a 50-50 partnership, and let them sit down in Harmandir Sahib Golden Temple and come out with a high value package for Punjab which can save its water and make it. They are the blessed state, 99% irrigation compared to Maharashtra, which is only 18% irrigation. So they can produce all sorts of commodities if you give them access to good markets. And Gulf is waiting. They can't produce anything. It's a desert. And now Prime Minister, when he has such a friendly relations with UAE and others, in that it can open the doors for very high value exports. I think let this be a new deal for agriculture, especially for Punjab farmers in the so-called Amrit Kal, and let it start from Harmandir Sahib.
Okay, let me now throw this open to our other guests. Yashwant Deshmukh, to you first. In the data that we carried at the beginning of the show, it's quite clear that the scores of the farmers, now most viewers frankly, would not understand the nuances of agricultural economics. But as far as the concerns being raised by the farmers, should the farmers get a fair deal? Are you sympathetic towards their cause? There is high support, not just amongst land-owning farmers and landless labourers, as your data shows, but amongst other communities as well, Yashwant.
Well, Rahul, Kisan and Jawan, these are the two emotive issues in this country. Anything that is related to Kisan and anything that is related to Jawan will always get huge sympathy and huge support among the masses. Make no mistake about it. All they want, they understand farmers are demanding something, they need something, and that must be given. It is like a kind of a blind support they always get. But at the same time, I must warn that this support should not be completely confused with the support or opposition to the farm laws, which were kind of repelled because of the demonstrations that happened. When we ran surveys at that point of time, Rahul, overwhelming majority of the farmers outside Punjab-Haryana and Western UP wanted the new farm laws, but they were taken back when they were taken back. And what people want is that they want to support the farmers, but they also do not want the farmers of Punjab, Haryana, and Western UP, which are considered to be good or bad in a way, rich farmers, to take hostage the rest of the farmers and their conditions and their demand. So while rest of the India is sympathetic to the cause of the farmers which are right now asking for MSP and other details, I am afraid that these farmers are not similarly sympathetic to the cause of the rest of the farmers in rest of the India. And if they're, please be very, very careful in this. This is a kind of let's say unconditional support of the Indians to the cause of the farmers. This is what the data is showing. But at the same time, the same set of data has also shown that the landowning farmers as well as landless agricultural labor outside this sphere of the Western India, Northwestern India, have not been given their due because of the lack of the farm laws, lack of the farm reform, lack of the access to the open market the way it should be. And that is where there is a contradiction of sorts. So as long as rest of the India, rest of the farmers, rest of the non-farmers are showing sympathy to the cause of the farmers and the cause of the MSP of the minimum support price, somehow I feel that it is not being the same kind of sympathy to the cause of the rest of the farmers are not really.
Okay. So, Harish Damodharan, the big debate between Devendra Sharma on the one side and the likes of Professor Ashok Gulati on the other is whether a minimum support price can be legally mandated, whether this would work to the advantage of the farmers, or could it end up harming farmers more because a certain part of the produce which is beyond what the market requires simply then nobody touches because the price isn't coming down, they just leave it, and farmers, Professor Gulati argues, could end up worse off. You study Indian farming closely. Where do you come out on this critical question? Harish Damodar.
Yeah, see, Rahul, we should approach this this issue a little openly, and eschew extreme ideological positions, I think your surveys very clearly shows that this thing of guaranteeing MSP has some kind of traction among a majority of farmers in the country. Okay, I am not surprised about it. Okay, and I am principally for some kind of a price assurance to farmers. Okay, and I don't and let's not view it from an ideological lens at all. Okay, now the thing is, how do we give this MSP? Certainly, I mean, farmers should not expect that all their quinoa and wheat and everything is going to be procured by the government. That's not possible. Okay, and the second route also, forcing the trader to pay, even that's not ruled out. Okay, I think the third option is definitely worth exploring, which is basically the government paying the price difference between the market clearing price and the MSP. Let farmers sell at whatever the price, whatever is the going market rate. And I think the government can pay the price difference. I'll tell you why this is worth exploring. Number one, what it will do is, see, today your entire agricultural trade is cash-based. Okay? The whole thing is entirely based on cash transactions. Okay? If you have a situation where every transaction can be recorded, okay, then we are moving towards some kind of a formalization of the farm trade. Okay, and suppose the farmer feels that I will be paid the price difference. The farmer will insist on a receipt from the buyer. Okay, and there are I think and this actually is very compatible with the government's own digital digitization aims, removing black money and those kind of things. We should move to a situation where every transaction is monitored. Okay, every transaction I know how much the farmer has sold at what price, and you can pay the price difference, and according to me, the other advantage of this particular system is this should be implemented by the states. Okay, if Bihar feels that its maize farmers should get the MSP, then let it take the pains, set up the infrastructure. You have to see to it that every trade is recorded. You have to take the pains for that. I think we should move to this kind of a system.
So let me get Ashok Gulati to respond. And I'll explain in one sentence what Harish Damodaran is saying. He's saying, let's imagine that you...
I'll just add one more thing.
Yes.
I'll just add one more thing, Rahul. I want to add just one more thing.
Go on.
The other advantage of this thing is we'll know exactly what is our production. What is our production? We have absolutely no idea. Government gives all kinds of data on wheat production. But now when we know how much is getting sold, and this doesn't have to be sold in a mandi, basically you need a receipt. You generate receipts. Every farmer will generate a receipt. And just like you have the GST portal today, right? I mean, today every buyer insists that the supplier pays the GST. So a similar thing you can have, and according to me, you'll open up a lot of possibilities. So which is why I'm saying we should eschew extreme ideological position, saying that this goes against free market, and on the other hand saying that farmers are dying. I think that's what we should look at.
Okay, let Ashok Gulati respond to this, and I'll take a moment to explain to our viewers the premise of the argument. Let's say that the MSP is set at 100 rupees. A certain part of the produce will get sold at 100. Some of it will not sell because the market thinks the price is only 80. So Harish Damodaran is arguing that the government will not need to pay 100. It will only need to pay the difference between 100 and 80 because 80 is where the market consumes and picks up whatever the farmer has to offer. So the government only then needs to spend 20, which may be more palatable than the government having to spend 100. He argues that this may be a potential solution. Ashok Gulati, do you concur?
Conceptually, this scheme of price deficiency payment has been tried in a number of countries. Even in India, we tried, and Ramesh knows that very well, in Madhya Pradesh, in one season, and we gave it up after that. Reason, to the best of my understanding, our traders are much smarter. If the market was clearing at 80, and if they know that the government is going to give the difference between MSP and market price, that 20, instead of 80, the price will drop to 60 and 70. So because they say, oh, government will give you all the deficiency, so I'm ready to give you a receipt at 60. So they will play the game much better than the government can handle, and the fisc will blow out immediately on that. So we have to find a comparative price, which cannot be tinkered by these
You know, it's
traders.
fascinating that you say this, because the first time Harish Damodaran mentioned this to me, instinctively I told him exactly the same thing. That the traders, like they did during demonetization, will find a way of gaming the system, that they will make it seem as if the price is much lower than the actual price, so that they can actually get more out of the government. They could also potentially do a game with the farmers where they say, okay, we'll pay you this much, you show this much, whatever is left, you take some part of it, I take some part. So there's so many ways, and we've already seen this Indian jugaad during demonetization. So it's not, I'm not being disrespectful to anyone here, but Harish Damodaran, that is just the reality of how Indian trade happens. They'll find a way of gaming the system and just skewing the proposal that you've just presented. Respond to Ashok Gulati, Harish Damodaran.
See, it's like this. You can have a combination of both procurement and price deficiency. Like for example, say, let us assume, say, the minimum support price of, say, bajra is, say, 2,200. Okay, and the ruling market price is, say, 2,100. So the government can procure a little, and automatically the prices will go above the MSP. But yes, if the price is say 1,600 or something, then you need to pay the price deficiency. But I'm not convinced that it's so easy to rig the whole market. Okay, we have the entire country which is a market, right? I mean, soybean is there, you know, and ultimately even a trader has to buy, has to stock up, you know. So it's not as easy that, you know, I can just push down the prices. So, and I don't agree that the Bhavantar was a failure. I mean, just with a single season, how can you come out with a conclusion? It's like for example, GST. You know, look, everybody knows that the GST wasn't, I mean, perfect when it started off. You know, so which is why I'm saying, you know, let's approach this with an open mind. You know,
Ashok Gulati, respond to that, because GST had initial problems doesn't mean you finish off GST, you stay invested in, you try and tweak and fix the system.
You know, I wish it can be fixed like that, but I believe more in the smartness of the traders than the administration and governance of the government. And I'm sure traders will make the best of it. But Harish said something interesting, and that's where I think I want to put my little weight there. And he said, the government, where the prices go down and a bit of procurement government can do and try to push the market prices a little bit up. That's the idea of a price stabilization fund, that you have 20,000, 25,000 crores to do these operations, and start with the Bihar. Eastern India is all ready for it. This is what we should be doing to do justice.
No, but the problem with the price stabilization funds are, whenever they've been used, especially recently, they've always largely been used to benefit the consumer. So if, for example, the price has gone up too much, say, of an onion or whatever commodity you want to take, it is used to try and bring the price down for the consumer rather than to help the farmer when the price crashes. And the price crashes, that time this intervention doesn't seem to be happening. Ashok Gulati.
This is the fundamental problem of Indian policy making, that all these years we have favored the consumers more than the producers on that front. I'll give you a little example. Give me half a minute on that. In the budget of 47 lakh crores, food subsidy is 2,12,000 crores, fertilizer subsidy is 1,88,000 crores, which lower cost leads to lower MSP and therefore pass on to the consumers. Then there is PM Kisan, and then there is insurance subsidy and Manrega and all this. This is 5.5 lakh crores out of a budget of 47 lakh crores. Now, 80% of this is actually tilted towards the consumers rather than towards the producers. Now, if you start rationalizing that, and the first question I will ask is, if you say poverty is 11% in the country, then why are you giving free food to 800 million plus people, 60% of the population? Can't they earn their own food? And even if you give free food to 11%, but charge half the MSP price to others, you can easily save 60, 70,000 crores. And that you put in agriculture. Agriculture will start changing and price stabilization.
Let
fund or
R.S.
whatever
Paroda
experiments
respond
you
to
want
this
do
important
that.
argument that most of the government subsidies or benefits or even the price stabilization fund kicks in when prices of a commodity like onion go up, or whichever commodity, tomato, onion, pick anything. That's when the government comes into panic, says, oh my God, consumers are going to have to spend so much, let's try and artificially deflate the price. But the same level of concern doesn't seem to kick in when the price of a commodity crashes. That's when the farmer is left to fend for himself. And that, even Ashok Gulati argues, is a very unfair way of looking at this equation between those who produce and those who consume.
Well, I think let me start with your first four questions. The answer is already very clear that there is a reason which is a genuine for the protest. The awareness for the demand is also there among majority of the people, and MSP should be legalized. I don't know whether it should be legalized, but MSP is there and has stabilized our markets and production system for last more than 50 years. It is not today's demand. It started in 65. We have come a long way. We have a system where you have cost and price commission. We would like to see that farmer gets minimum at least what he is spending. And what happened recently, you talked about onion. The farmers were getting only 8 to 10 rupees and their cost of production is 30 rupees. Now, in that situation, the schemes which have come up later, after, of course, the MSP, is of this ASHA, which is PM ASHA scheme, under which you have the possibility of, price support scheme and the price deficiency payment scheme. Now, price deficiency payment scheme has been allowed in oilseed, and the price support scheme is allowed only for pulses. And you can choose only one. So every state has to decide what they want to do. But there are provisions now, and when we look at the reason why farmers are wanting it, let's not try to just blame Punjab farmers. As it was mentioned, they had helped us and they are the one who gave us green
Okay,
revolution.
so let Ashok Gulati respond to this, that, while it's the Punjab farmers who are protesting, and the government says, why only Punjab farmers protesting? The farming community responds to say that they represent or they espouse the concerns of farmers in other states as well. But farmers in Bihar, West Bengal, Assam are so badly off that they don't have the wherewithal, the means to leave Assam or to leave West Bengal, to leave Bihar and to come all the way to Delhi. It's easier to come from Punjab, and you have some ability to be able to do so, organize yourself, which is why the Punjab farmers are coming. But these are problems and concerns of farmers pan-India.
Well, I wish that is the case, and our concern also is pan-India farmers. But we are talking of a situation, increasing farmers' income is overdue. So, as I said, there are different ways to do it. Right now, we are talking about prices. And prices, Dr. Paroda said, the cost of onion is 30 rupees a kg. I'm not sure about that, but if that is the case, and 50% margin on that, that means 45 rupees should be the minimum price for the farmer. Normally, the consumer price is 3 times more than what the farmer gets. So by the time it comes to Delhi, it should be 125 rupees a kg. Any government can survive with onion prices of 125 rupees a kg? Tell me that. So there is an issue of increasing income, which is, we are all working for that. All the panelists have devoted their whole lifetime for the betterment of agriculture, including me. I think we have to find proper instruments which can do the job with prudence. Little money, big bang for the buck. And on price assurance or price stability, one, you open up the gates. Why have you put export controls? Why are you putting stocking limits on the private trade? Why are you unloading wheat and rice at below the economic cost to suppress the market prices? So you have distorted the market itself. You have not allowed the markets to function. So first thing is remove all this. Essential Commodities Act was basically that you cannot impose stocking limits at the drop of a hat.
No, but then
So
the middle class will start protesting. Viewers of
That's-
India Today will go crazy. They'll say
So-
the government is not being able to keep food prices down, and there'll be
This is-
a rebellion on the streets. And right now it looks all peaceful and good for the government. There'll be chaos if onion is at 150 rupees a kilo.
Rahul, that's why I'm saying I have great sympathy with the policymaker who has to tread on a very tight rope walk, because they have to calibrate the interests of the farmers as well as the consumers. And unfortunately, 70%, 80% of the time they tilt towards consumers. That's the consumer bias in the system.
Okay, so I have
They
two
thought
more
elections
questions.
are coming.
Yeah.
Let me just have it.
Yes.
Elections were coming. They know the largest number of people who are going to vote are consumers. So suppress the prices. But suppressing the prices has led to now this type of farmer unrest.
Okay, I have two more questions. I want to take them on our screen right now. Question number one: should farmers be allowed to protest in Delhi? 71% of land-owning farmers say yes, farmers should be allowed to protest in the capital. 72% of laborers say they should be allowed to protest in the capital. 53% of non-farmers also say they should be allowed to protest in Delhi. I mean, if they want to protest, should they be allowed? This is what the C voter data has found. Is the use of force against protesters justified? 29% of non-farmers say yes. 23% of landless laborers say yes. 21% of landowning farmers say yes, but 62% of landowning farmers say no. 58% of laborers say no, and 52% of even the non-farming community says no. And I think that is also the reality, that you don't want force to be used against the Andata. You can't say Andata, and then start using force, which is also why the government is continuing to talk to the farmers, try and find some solution, doesn't want to get into a confrontation, and most definitely not a violent confrontation with the protesters. I want to quickly conclude, and I want to ask you first, and I want to start by putting this question to Harish Damodaran of what happens to the protests from here. Do these continue? Do these potentially escalate? Do they scale down? What's your sense?
Rahul, I don't know about how the current protests are, but I can tell you that the MSP as a legal right, or let us say something kind of a right to a fair price, is going to have traction, okay? And it is going to come back in some way or the other, okay? This is number one, okay? Number two, see, India has too many mouths to feed, okay? And if farmers decide that, it's not worth farming, okay, we are going to come to it's going to be a very serious problem, okay? We need to somehow assure either income to the farmer or price to the farmer, okay? We cannot run away from this, because both these things, and number three, the risks to production are increasing, I mean, whether it is because of pests and diseases, whether it is because of abiotic stresses, whether it is because of unseasonal rains. So if the farmer doesn't have a basic price assurance, it's very unlikely that they are going to remain in this business, and I would be very worried.
It's not a bad idea for some of the farmers to leave farming and to do other things. Might not be an illogical thing. You want people in farming, but you don't want the current number of people. They have to look outside farming. Too many people being in farming is also part of the problem.
So which is why I'm saying we need to look at this MSP thing, dispassionately, eschewing ideological positions, and can we work on this thing? I believe that it is possible,
Okay, so we had a fascinating conversation. I'm completely out of time, but I want to thank our guests for joining us, because in all of what I've heard, read and seen so far, we haven't had as wide-ranging a conversation from a market perspective, an economic perspective, an ideological perspective on the problems and potential solutions to the challenges of the demand for a legalized minimum support price. So thank you to all our guests for joining us and sharing your wide-ranging perspectives in the spirit of argument and debate. We'll slip into a break. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as well. We'll have a lot more for you when we come back on the other side.
Bosch electronic seat by Kohler. Wish everything was this intelligent.
Get ready for an immersive journey into the heart of news, politics, and insights that matter. Join India Today now on WhatsApp. Scan the QR code.
ये अभिजीत भट्टाचार्य से साहित्य आज तक कोलकाता में लाइव। फ्री एंट्री के लिए अभी रजिस्टर करें www.aajtak.in/साहित्य पर या मिस्ड कॉल दीजिए 9310330033 पर।
ओरी चिड़ैया नन्ही सी चिड़िया